Lotus just got revamped, and I am going to tell you everything that you need to know to clear this boss. There's actually a new difficulty called Extreme, but just so you guys know, normal and hard are about the same HP, so they're still more than clearable and nothing you should really worry about. The boss has a lot of new mechanics, but we're going to go over which ones are the most important and the ones that you should really look out for so you can clear easily. If you want a full 100% descriptive guide, I will leave a link to Kobe's guide in the description. His is super in-depth, but I want to go over the most important parts of the boss fight instead of doing a 100% boss overview type of video. So what I have here is footage of me doing this fight, and I'm gonna pause and play certain parts that I think are very important to talk about for each phase. So the first phase starts with Lotus in his little fucking box, and you're basically just hitting the middle. In my opinion, the safest spots to be in this phase are in the middle area. You don't want to be in the left and right corners, because how some of the mechanics in this boss works is a lot of Lotus's attacks, if they hit Lotus himself, will deal either damage to him, break his shield, or lower the gauge. This gauge at the top of your screen, it'll be there for every single fight, and if it fills up, you could think of it as Lotus is enraged in quotation marks, or he enters his annihilation mode, and all that means is his attacks hurt more and happen more often, and there are some new attacks that spawn in as well. And if you want to lower the gauge, you have to not get hit by his attacks and have his own map attacks hit himself. So it's this constant moving up and down gauge based off of how well you're performing, which I think is pretty cool. And the gauge gets more and more dangerous with each phase. So in phase 1, it's not really anything to worry about because all of Lotus's attacks basically hit him if you're standing in this middle area. So the gauge is always low. So the first attack that I want to talk about are these two big lasers. So the lasers, they target you and they follow your location, but as they're about to fire, they stop moving and they stop targeting you. You always want these lasers to hit Lotus if possible in any phase. This is a recurring mechanic in every single phase, and you always want Lotus to be hit by these lasers because it always lowers the gauge or breaks the shield in P1. So as you can see, it stops following me and I jump away, and wherever the cross section hits, if it's hitting Lotus, it'll lower the gauge. So you can see the gauge just lowered there. There was a tiny bit of gauge, and if you see the laser hit, the gauge just went away because his own attack hit him. Now he was doing another attack that's also very dangerous, and I like to call it the stun. If you look at Lotus, these circles around him will start filling up, and when they fill up fully, like the ring completes, then he will do a stun on either the bottom or the top. But if it's on the bottom, it's very dangerous. So you could see the stun spawns right in the middle and I jump over it. But if I were to have not jumped over it, then I would be stunned in the middle of the screen in this area, which is very dangerous. So I would say that the stun attack is also very important to dodge, and you should know how to do these lasers as well. Now this is another attack that's kind of dangerous. It's kind of like the floor laser. It's really easy to dodge. As soon as you see this blue stuff on the floor, you literally just up jump, but you could see that I didn't jump there and I actually died. Like I lost my door. I took 58-323 and you can see my door went away. So that's pretty dangerous attack, but it's really easy to dodge. All you have to do is just up jump. Now the next attack that I want to talk about is the rotating saw blades. You can tell where they come up based off of these two eyes in the middle. So these little like orange triangles, those are like eyes, and whichever one gets lit up, then the saw blades will spawn on that side of the map. So if this right eye gets lit up, then the saw blades will spawn from the center and move right. If this left one gets lit up, then they'll spawn from the center and move left. But in this case, both of them are lit up, so the saw blades are going to spawn on both sides and move to either direction. These saw blades do a lot of damage, but they are very easy to dodge, so just make sure that you have eyes on the eyes. So you can see right here, only one of them lit up, and I'm just going to move to the other side of the map because I know that the saw blades are going to spawn on the right side. So Lotus will spawn a shield for himself every so often. I believe it's every 30 seconds after the shield disappears, and when the shield is up, you do like no damage. Your damage gets reduced by 90%, I believe, and the fastest way to get rid of the shield is by having his own map attacks attack him. So I see this laser is here. I'm going to make sure that it targets the middle. There's a really big hitbox. It could even target here or anywhere in between, or if you jump up and it targets in the middle, like it's a really big hitbox. It's kind of like impossible to miss. and you can see that it eliminated half the shield just from hitting him. If you're duoing, or based off how many party members there are, it splits the damage it does to the shield by however many party members there are. And you can see he's doing this like ring charge up attack, so I know he's going to do the stun. You see I just got stunned right there because I didn't move out the way. And you can see the stun does a lot of damage as well. It does like a third of your HP. So with the second laser shot, the shield is like fully gone. So it's either 2 laser shots, or if you're in extreme, there's an extra mechanic of like a giant arm that comes down, and that takes a huge chunk of the shield away too. So these falling debris, these like big red junk debris, these are not as dangerous as they might seem. They actually don't do any damage as they're falling down. They only explode after a bit, and if you're standing there, then it does a lot of damage. So you don't really have to worry about them. As long as you're not standing on top of them, you're good. There are landmines as well, but these things are very, very like easy to dodge. Either just don't stand on them or walk past them and then walk away from them and they'll detonate. So he also does these like mechanical arm attacks, very similar to Black Mage's chains. These attacks also get rid of Lotus's shield. So you want to dodge them while you're in like the middle part of the map, because they're also going to hit Lotus and they're going to take away from his shield. You can see how much they removed. They removed almost like 2/3 of the shield. And then with the laser here, it's just going to get rid of the rest of the shield. And I didn't even hit Lotus at all. Now you'll notice that this entire time the gauge hasn't really been filling up. In extreme, it'll fill up faster, but it's really not that dangerous in P1 because so many things are hitting Lotus himself that it's not really worth mentioning. But if it does fill up, he'll do an attack called the horizontal bombardment, and all you have to do is stand on the right side of the map and you're good. It's like an FMA, but you just have to stand on the right and then you'll dodge it. So you can see there's the falling debris, and I'm standing right under it and it doesn't do any damage. I have to walk away from it when it explodes, and then I'll be good. All right, so for phase 2, there are 2 platforms, and Lotus himself starts to walk around and he teleports to you and all that. But the most important thing in phase 2 is that the gauge starts to actually become a thing that matters, and you'll see his enraged form because there's a lot more mechanics in P2 and a lot of them don't hit him just like they do hit him in P1. So the gauge becomes like an actual threatening part of this fight. Yo, just wanted to give a quick reminder to subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. And if you don't subscribe, you're going to wipe in Lotus. I swear to God, you will wipe in Lotus if you don't sub. So it's up to you. It's up to you. I'll leave it at that. But I also want to mention that I'm doing a subathon on my stream if you're watching this video as it comes out. If you're watching this way in the future, then maybe I'm not. But either way, you should pull up to my stream regardless. And with that all being said, thank you for watching. Let's get back into the video. The most important thing about P2 is standing on the top left area or the bottom right. I really prefer the top left, and we'll explain in a bit, but the top left area is the safest spot, and standing on top of him as well is also very, very safe. So if you're playing ideally, you would be on top of him and in the top left, and you'll be safe from a lot of mechanics. So this pattern right here is like, it's sort of like debris, but it's not the same as old Lotus because it's a set pattern. It always spawns in the middle and then it spreads out, kind of like the white balls in Black Mage, the diagonal white balls, but they go in both directions. So it's something very easy. Now, the thing about Lotus's push is whichever direction that you see this like black portal for his push, whatever direction you see it in, that's where his push is going to be. And if you're standing on top of him, either direction, whether he pushes left or right, it won't hit you. So you could just do the classic, like go behind him, or you just stand on top of him and you dodge the push. Now this next mechanic are these like blue pillar things. You can actually stand in between them. Like there's enough space here that you can stand in between and you won't get hit. And you could stand on top of the ones that seemingly look like they're going to hit you from the bottom, but they don't actually hit you from the bottom. So you can see here, I'm standing on top of this one and I actually don't take damage from it. These mechanical arms are going to be constantly hitting you though. So keep that in mind. You have to like kind of stay moving, and these lasers, same thing, just like in P1, they're also going to keep targeting you. But it's the exact same as P1. You want it to hit Lotus and you'll see that the gauge went down because I hit him with the laser. Now the next attack that's worth mentioning is this like blue field that he does around him. If you're standing on top of him, you're safe. If you're on his sides within range, then you'll take damage and you'll get marked. And this little sphere above your head, after a few seconds, it's going to expand and you're going to be sent flying across the map. And it also stuns you. It doesn't just send you flying, it also stuns you. So it's actually pretty dangerous. But like I mentioned before, if you're standing on top of him, you don't get hit by that. So you can see like I'm just kind of trying to stay in the middle of him, and a lot of his attacks don't even hit me. And the attacks from the map that do target me, since I'm on top of him, it'll hit him and lower the gauge. So I'm going to be standing on top of him for this like blue field attack, and you'll notice that I don't get the mark above my head. Now that the enrage has happened and he's in his like annihilation mode because the gauge filled up, you'll see that the map has this like orange border around it, and the gauge turned orange means you're in the annihilation mode right now. And he unlocks a few new attacks. There's two really important attacks that you have to be very careful of. The first one is this little spherical robot that follows you. This thing is so annoying in phase 2 and phase 3. You have to make sure that you are standing like very far away from the boss, or basically you want to stand somewhere that you yourself are not going to stand. Since we know that the top left area is like an ideal area that's safe, I'm gonna stand over here on the right because the bot is eventually gonna stop following me and do its own attack. Now, this like electrical attack around the ball is very dangerous because not only does it do a lot of damage, it ticks a bunch of times. It also knocks you up if you are hit by it a certain amount of times. So I want to stay away from my safe spot because I want to place it there and then go back to my safe spot because I don't want to deal with this. When it knocks you up, it just displaces you and is the worst thing ever. And the reason why I say the top left area is safer than the bottom right area is because if this electrical ball was in the bottom right area with you, it would knock you up into this upcoming attack called the horizontal bombardment. So the horizontal bombardment in phase 2 and phase 3 is basically like a one-shot kill, and it's only if you're standing in these areas. The only safe spots are the bottom right and bottom left of phase 2 and phase 3. It's the exact same safe spots, and it summons these walls that you cannot pass through. Like, I've even tried like using a skill called like Duky strike, which is like an iframe teleport forward, and it doesn't send you through it. You can jump over it though. So I place it here because I know that this is going to be like an area that's going to get me killed, and I'm not going to want to be here. And then I immediately dash back to the left spot, which is the safe spot. And you could see that if I were to be standing here and here, it's an insta one shot. It ticks a bunch of times, so even if you have like a parry type attack that blocks one hit, it ticks a bunch of times, or damage reduction, it's still gonna kill you. So it's very, very dangerous. And he does it usually like 1 or 2 times per annihilation gauge, depending on how long it stays up. The next really, really important attack are these lasers that target you. So these red lasers that fall from like the top of the map, they actually hit really, really quickly. So you have to be like, you have to dodge really fast, and they do a lot of damage. And there's going to be a lot of them. So you have to stay moving so these things don't target you. Another thing that's worth mentioning is these red pinpoint lasers. Is in phase 2 there are 3 of them per set, but in phase 3 there are 4 of them per set. So you could actually count how many of these lasers spawn in, and then you know that you don't have to deal with it after. So shout out JWST for reminding me of that. And you can see I'm still trying to get Lotus hit by the map attacks to lower his annihilation gauge because I don't want to deal with these mechanics. The ball spawns in again, and I immediately like place it towards the right side because I don't want to deal with it. And then the horizontal bombardment happens again, so I'm going to stay in the safe spot on the top left. So this is a really cool mechanic. If you do happen to get hit by the blue attack and the ball is above your head, if you are in any sort of movement type skill, as it's about to send you flying, it actually won't send you flying, but it'll only stun you. So you can see the ball expands as you're about to get flung, and I'm going to do a dash here. And instead of getting flung, I only get stunned for a bit, and I'm still on the platform. So it doesn't displace you if you time a dash properly. You could also iframe it, and then it won't stun you or fly you. You see, I just iframed there as soon as I saw the ball expand above my head, and now I don't get any displacement or stun. So this is what it looks like on the bottom right, because the bottom right is also a safe spot from the horizontal bombardment, and it's a different spot that you can play in. But this is what I mean by if the ball was here. If the ball was here and you didn't move it somewhere else, and this is the safe spot, then you're going to be sent flying up. Like, I didn't up jump there. It moved me up. And imagine if the horizontal bombardment was happening at the same time and I got flung up into it, you would die. But if you happen to be here and you get flung up, you're still not going to be put into the horizontal bombardment, so you'd be safe. That's why the top left spot is safer than the bottom right. So let's talk about phase 3. Phase 3 is by far the most difficult part of this fight, but it's not impossible. There are a lot more mechanics happening way more frequently, so it can be very, very overwhelming. But as long as you're dodging, I would say, the main mechanics, and you're still sticking on top of him in the top left, it should definitely still be clearable. Now, the difference in phase 3 is the annihilation gauge is basically perma filled up, and he's always enraged doing a lot more attacks. It's kind of like the default state of this boss, and even if you lower the gauge, it only gives the annihilation gauge a small cooldown, and then it'll fill back up to full automatically again. So I'm going to immediately try and bring him to the top left because I know that's the spot that I want to be in. So same thing as before, these lasers still target you and you have to keep moving around. You never want to stay still in this fight. You want to move around between your safe spot, between the zone that it gives you. is these missiles that are kind of like these big orange pillars that happen. This hitbox is very misleading because it seems like that entire area is about to be like blown up or something, but these missiles just fall from the top of the map and they fall down, so you still have a lot of time to dodge them. Now the next mechanic I want to talk about is the platform. So Lotus can break the platforms and throw them at you. Now the thing about these platforms is they have these like diamond hitboxes that tell you where the platforms are going to land, and they're going to fly at you one by one. These platforms are very dangerous because they also knock you back, and I think they stun you for a little bit too. So it's very, very dangerous to get hit by these platforms. You really want to avoid them. They're very easy to dodge though because it tells you where it's going to land. So as long as you keep moving around, you're good. Now the exact same in this fight, horizontal bombardment happens, and the top left and bottom right areas are safe, but you always want to be on the top left area. There are the lasers as well, but this time there's 3 lasers, and it's the exact same as phase 1 and phase 2. You want to target Lotus with them ideally because it would lower the gauge. And there's the ball again, the spherical ball that follows you and has the electrical field. Same exact thing. You want to place it somewhere that you're not going to be so you don't have to deal with it. And it also knocks you up and does even more damage in this phase, so it's very, very dangerous. Next thing that you have to dodge are these full map attack spider web pattern, cross pattern. I don't even know how to describe this, like lasers that just go everywhere. The reason why you want to dodge this isn't even because they do a lot of damage. It's because they root you in place, meaning you can't move. Think of it like getting gauged in Saren. Like you're just stuck there. You can't hear as well out of it, iframe or anything. You were just stuck there. And because you are stuck there, Lotus always does an FMA attack after this pattern, always 100%. And if you happen to be rooted, the FMA will one-shot you. But if you're not rooted and you dodge this, the FMA won't one-shot you. It'll still do a lot of damage, but it won't one-shot you. So I dodge it here, and you'll see that the Lotus does his big FMA. And I just up jump and dodge the FMA because FMA doesn't hit the whole map. It just has a huge hitbox. There are going to be these like missiles that are constantly shooting at you as well, and they do quite a bit of damage. You want to make sure you dodge them, but it's not like a super high priority thing. The other mechanics are more important to dodge. But ideally, you want to dodge the missiles if possible. The next thing that's very, very important to dodge are these red glowing spots. These red glowing spots, after a couple of seconds, there will be an explosion in that area, and it does a massive amount of damage, and it stuns you. So you really want to make sure to not get hit by it. It's pretty easy to dodge. You just don't stand in that area. Now, the next thing is Lotus's attacks himself. So Lotus has his push, but his push is way more dangerous in this phase because it goes in like both directions and has a way bigger hitbox. So you could see he pushes right in front of him and I get sent flying. But there's also a push behind him that happens like a second later. There's also this push, but this push isn't as dangerous because if you're just standing a little bit behind him, like you're good to go. It doesn't hit from behind either. Lotus has these 3 ball robots that follow him, and these 3 ball robots are also very dangerous because if you are on the sides of Lotus, like think of it like directly under these robots, they'll knock you up, and they'll knock you up 3 times. Each robot will knock you up, so it's very, very, very annoying. But like I said at the start of this phase, if you're just on top of Lotus, you'll dodge so many of these mechanics. You'll dodge his push, you'll dodge these knockups, you'll dodge a lot of stuff if you're just on top of Lotus himself. You can see I even dodged that push by being on him and ducking right there. Now there's this push as well. This push that's in front of him, you can't duck it. You have to be behind him or up jump or further away from him to dodge it. You're still going to get pushed even if you duck that one. The next thing that's very important is there's actually this portal that takes you from each safe spot. So there's a portal for this safe spot on the top left, and if you take it, it brings you to the bottom right immediately. Definitely utilize this portal. Like it's such a OP way of dodging the mechanics. You can see like there was the explosion there, and I'm just going to be on the top left and I'm good. Even a missile went even flying there too, and I wasn't there anymore. So I could just bring the ball here, the electrical ball, and then just TP back, and then I'm good. So he does his push, right? If you remember this push, he pushes towards the wall, but this push has another part that goes behind him as well. So I'm just going to duck, and you can see that this behind part, this like tube that extends out from behind, this would also push me, but you can duck this one. So the frontward one, you can't duck, but the backwards one, you can duck. Exact same thing with the spherical ball. Honestly, this ball is one of the most important things to dodge. It's so dangerous. As long as you're aware of it and you place it somewhere else and then go back to the fight becomes so much more manageable. Platforms as well. Like these platforms are very dangerous. I actually die here because of the platform. Horizontal bombardment, like it's not even something to really even worry about in this phase as long as you're in the safe spot. So the push actually has 2 parts of it, like this frontward part that comes out, and then as the backwards part comes out, the front part also hits again. So not only do you have to dodge the front part once, when the back part comes out, you have to dodge the front part again. So just make sure that when he's doing the push, like you stay away from him or you're just behind him. But that's about it for the new Lotus fight. Hopefully this video helped explain things better for you and you know how to clear. Trust me, it's really not as difficult as it looks, and it's still more than clearable. If you were clearing Lotus before, you could definitely still clear it today. It's really not as hard as it seems. If you want to watch me clear Lotus, I cleared the extreme difficulty, the hardest one, on my YouTube. I'll link that below as well. And obviously, if this video helped you out, make sure to subscribe because it helps me out as well. And if you want to pull up to the stream where we have a lot of fun, or you want to watch me clear Lotus live, then pull up. And with that all being said, have a wonderful day. Shout out to my members, Blazefire, Shooms, Uju, Shagad, Ravi Espa, Koga, Pabo, Piconir, Jesse B, Dante Victory, Zats, CK, Assassin, Prelman, and Johan. I appreciate you guys so much, and shout out to everyone who made the fan art. Thank you for sending it.